Hello, my fellow Hulk fans. It's Jerry Rasco back with you today, and that means we are going to take some time together to talk about more Hulk featured in Tales to Astonish. So today we're going to look at Tales to Astonish number 72 in the ongoing story of the Incredible Hulk. If you are a subscriber to the channel, thank you so much. As of the recording of this video, we have just over 400 subscribers. So that means we're making great progress towards the goal of 1,000 subscribers. Now, what do you get by being a subscriber? You get the opportunity to win free artwork just by clicking a button. That's it. There's no cost. There's no purchase necessary. There won't even be shipping. When we reach 1,000 subscribers, I will be choosing random subscribers and sending them free artwork. And that could be you if you are a subscriber and an art collector. So let me show you very quickly the artwork that we're featuring in this giveaway. So if you're not a subscriber, maybe this will tempt you into hitting that button today. So we start off with the Incredible Hulk. So this is a piece, all of this artwork is by myself. It is all hand drawn. There is no AI. There is no copying, or as we use in the industry, swiping. These are all original pieces by me, one of a kind. So you have the Incredible Hulk celebrating this series on the channel. We have the Amazing Spider-Man, of course, featuring in the initial review series that we started here on the channel. We have the X-Men in their original school uniforms, the original team lineup. That is, of course, the third series. And then we have the Avengers, the original lineup of the Avengers. As of the recording of this video, this is the newest series that we have on the channel. So you'll definitely want to go ahead and check that out. Super fun. For me personally, I'm much more of a Spider-Man, X-Men kind of fan. So to go back and check out these Avengers issues is going to be a lot of fun. And then there are two more series that are still to come very soon. We have the Fantastic Four, the first family of Marvel, the book that kicked it all off. So we're going to be looking at that series going all the way back to Fantastic Four #1. And then once he does appear in the Avengers, I'm going to launch a Captain America series. So we'll look at his solo series as well. So that's what we have coming up on the channel. And any one of those pieces of art could be yours for free just by clicking that subscribe button. So please go ahead and consider that and become part of the community that we're building here with this YouTube channel. So that said, we're going to get to Tales to Astonish number 72. If you're a subscriber and you followed along, you know that the last issue was pretty tough. From an artistic standpoint, there was a lot going on there that I wasn't happy about. I'm not going to lie, this one has a lot of that too. However, you know, I'm a true believer that you can learn as much from maybe what not to do as you can from examples of what to do, right? It's good balance. So we're going to look at this. We're going to maybe feature a little more emphasis on the story because the art is pretty tough in spaces. But we're going to go through it together. We're going to give it a ranking, and we're going to keep going through this series. So let's jump over to the comic. Let's check it out together. Okay, so we have the cover, and for everybody who's been around, you know Tales to Astonish is a book that features multiple stories. So in this case, it is split between Submariner and the Hulk, and the Submariner is the lead story, and then the Hulk is in the second half of the book. And so previously, we didn't even have any hint of the Hulk featured on the cover. Now we have just a little bit. So obviously the main illustration is about Submariner, and we've got this little bit here featuring the Hulk with this is a Bruce Banner trapped, I guess, inside the head of the Hulk. So we're not going to spend much time on this cover. I was informed by my friend, comic historian and friend of the channel, Nick Caputo, that at some point here soon moving forward, the covers will start to alternate. So we'll have a Hulk cover one month, a Submariner cover the next month. Once we get through this, to be honest, we have a little ways to go, but eventually the Hulk will branch back out into his own series. So if you're wondering how long are we going to get half stories on the Hulk, bear with me. We're going to get through this, and then we'll get into the Hulk solo series, which is going to be really, really cool. So we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about the cover. We're going to skip through this Submariner stuff, because this is not a Submariner channel. This is a series based on the Hulk. So we're going to talk about the Hulk. So again, this is from 1965. This is a scanned PDF copy of the comic. So this is exactly the way it came off the printing press and into the hands of readers in 1965. It's a format I really enjoy. Obviously, it's digital, so it allows us to zoom in, zoom out, and in fact, allowed me to do something different for this video that I'm excited to show you, which is some screen captures and kind of showing you some stuff here. So that all said, let's talk about the creative team. We've got Stan Lee still writing these stories. And in this case, just like last issue, Jack Kirby is doing the layouts, and Mike Esposito, listed as Mickey DeMeo, is doing the finishes, meaning he's completing the artwork and inking it. So that all said, not my favorite art duo. And we've talked about this before. What is a layout versus what is somebody who's drawing something? And you can go back and check any number of my videos to talk about that. I also have pointed out links to another great artist and somebody who's been on the channel with me, Andy Smith. He has a video dedicated on his series to helping to explain the difference between pencils, layouts, roughs, finishes, inks. So basically what it means is just that Jack Kirby is basically giving Mike Esposito a rough breakdown of how the panel should be laid out. So is it a big panel, small panel, size or organization, all the composition of the page, and then where the general figures are. And my guess is probably very, very loose, sort of rounded bubble figures, maybe with a lot of notes in there about like, hey, don't forget this, make the Hulk big, he's angry, he's sad, whatever the case may be, to help Mike Esposito fill in the details. But that's what's going on. So we start off with the splash, and the first thing I'll talk about is the positive. It's good energy. There's a lot, right? So actually, let's talk about a quick recap. The leader has been the primary villain here for several issues in a row, right? This has become the Hulk's first real reoccurring villain, if you don't count General Ross and Major Glenn Talbot from the military. So this is his first real reoccurring villain, and he's been trying to. First, he was trying to steal technology. Now his focus, the leader's focus, is really on the Hulk as the other. He's recognized he's another gamma-spawned person or, individual. And so the leader wants to study the Hulk and, learn more about him and possibly use him in his plans. That all said, this has led to Bruce Banner in mid-transformation being shot in the head. And the only way to stay alive is to remain in his Hulk form. And all of this has led to a smarter Hulk. It's not quite Bruce Banner's brain in the Hulk's body. It's sort of a mix. It's a little bit of a more savage Banner or smart Hulk, basically. So it's kind of an in-between. And the military is after him. They found his secret cave laboratory finally, and they're making a big assault. And the splash page we have here is this assault. They're coming in now with flamethrowers, and the leader is offering to save the Hulk by teleporting him away from the military. So that's the story. So again, good energy. The flamethrower is cool. It's a sort of a POV or point of view of the soldiers coming at the Hulk, and there's this other figure behind. They shoot flames at him that goes right through because the leader is just a projection, and so that part is good. For my opinion, because the leader is a projection, like over here on page 2, we see things where he's drawn very lightly. Either there's lines going through him as though he's semi-transparent. The colors also reflect this, and the inking line is very light compared to some of the other inking lines. Here on the splash page, I think he's inked a little too solid. This heavy shadow under the leg, the thick outline around him makes it feel like he's more solid, that he's really there. as opposed to a projection. So I think that could have been fixed and done more in the way it is in the next page. But that's neither here nor there. The next thing I'm going to talk about before we head over to another screen is the Hulk, and his head is too large for this body. So what I mean by that is, think about proportions of the human body. If you want your character to appear larger than normal, wider, like in this case, the Hulk is wide, muscular, bulky, right? Much wider, bigger than a normal human being would be. One of the ways that you trick the eye with the proportions is you make your head smaller. Everything on the human body, we can take the size of your head and you can use that as a general measurement, and the rest of your whole body is in relation to that measurement. So your X number of heads tall, your X number of heads wide. Everything is in relation to each other. And here, the Hulk has a very big head. So his head is in proportion to sort of the rest of his body, if you will, but that's too big. You should kind of shrink the Hulk's head down a little bit, and that will make him appear much bigger without having to actually draw him even bigger. So it's a trick that you can use that isn't being used here. So the proportions are kind of off. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is this pose and with the fire. And this is something that I have learned and I have tried to inform newer or younger artists about whenever I've had an opportunity to look at their work and kind of critique it for them. People, when you have this, they're drawing the flames and then they're drawing the Hulk behind the flames and not drawing the Hulk through the flames, or drawing the Hulk first and then drawing the flames over and erasing where you can't see through the flames. And what that means is this Hulk in this pose and this anatomy does not work. And I'm going to show you why. So what I've done, and this is a first for the channel. I haven't done this for any other series, so I'm hoping it will work out. If it does, we may be able to use this more down the road as I'm trying to make very specific examples of terms or of techniques like this, on the page. So what we've got here, this I took a screenshot of this page and I put it onto my art tablet, which I'm got in front of me here. So it's on the screen, but it's actually still here in front of me. So what I did is, if you were to draw what you can't see behind the flame and fill in the gaps, so we're going to draw what is missing from the Hulk that would work with where this leg is, where this foot is, and where the hand leaves off, and same over here. So this is, if I draw through there, that's the pose that the Hulk is in. So what I've done is you essentially come down from the side of his lat. So it's a muscle that runs down the side of your back. And basically his waist stops there. There's essentially no abdomen. There's no abdomen muscles. Now, we can see the way that he's being drawn, even in page 2, we'll get to that very soon, his pants are up very high. He has a very short torso, but you have to have some sort of abdominals. Essentially, these are sort of rib area muscles right in here. Oops, let me change to a different color that'll stand out. Let's go with a nice bright blue color. Okay, so like these are the ribs, which means his rib cage is essentially this line here. This is his ribs, which means he has no abdomen, he has no waist, and on top of that, that means he has essentially no pelvis. So that's what we've got here. This shape here is about all the pelvis that the Hulk has, and that his legs meet at the center and are going out at 90-degree angles, like an action figure. The only way this works, and even this it doesn't really work, is this angle has to be extremely acute. This is where the hand would be in front, and then his instead of his knee bending at a 90-degree angle, it's twisting. So like this is his knee here, and so now this is turned. His foot is turned in a completely different direction. That would be incredibly hard to do. And this calf is way too short here. I didn't have enough room to even put in an ankle. So you've got the knuckles of his toes. It should come up. His ankle should be somewhere in here. And then his calf is only that long. And then this leg, yes, it is back further. But if you look at the distance from here to here, it's incredibly short. He's supposed to be very big, and maybe this is as long as this guy's leg. So it's very stumpy. There's no pelvis drawn. There's no abdomen. There's nothing there. This is not good. This is not how this works. Now, how should it be? This is how it should be. So what I did was I extended it. So you've got the second part of the arm, this other finger, and now I gave him abdominal muscles. Even then, still fairly short torso. You still have this. This is his lat coming down from the side, and then it's just this very short little doop right there. Normally, if you feel your own body where your rib cage stops, there's a considerable amount of distance between the bottom of your rib cage and where you can feel your hip bone. We've condensed that. That's fair. He's a monster. He's a freak of science. Maybe he has a short torso. Fair enough. What we did then as well is now you have that centerpiece, which is his pelvis, essentially his groin, if you will. But the legs, your legs don't meet in the middle, again, like an action figure. You have area to the side. So there's space there and space there of your hips, and your legs, the bones of your legs would connect there and there, not here and here, right? So this leg is now coming more, it's still coming at us, but it's in line with where the foot would be at a less dramatic angle because it's coming out of the hip socket as opposed to just out of the center. This would be the knee, and then that is bent, the leg bends behind. Your knee bends in line with your femur, your leg bones, right? It doesn't bend, it shouldn't bend in different directions. You can kind of angle your legs some, but really what you're doing is you're twisting your hip. You don't realize it. Your whole leg is pivoting. You can't take your knee and sort of pivot your knee. It's not made that way. So this is bending behind the thigh itself a little bit, and then at the ankle bending forward with the foot. Same thing here. I've just extended and made his leg. Yes, it is smaller, but you can see it is longer than it was. And then this part comes down to where it's in proportion to the rest of the figure. And then his foot would be there. So then you can still have the flame on top. You can have the guns in the way. Everything can still cover all this. That's fine. But at least the feet, hands, etc. would all be in the right position. So that's the difference between this. So just imagine what's in pink there. If somebody was standing like that versus this. And that, of course, that's the entire difference of how you draw something through the element that's covering it. So that I wanted to share. I hope that was intuitive, or at the very least, it was informative, right? We'll go that way. So like I said, if that works and we get good response, maybe I'll use some of that technique again when we find stuff like this in the future. So spent a lot of time on the splash page. We're going to keep moving, I promise. The Hulk here is very stiff. He's supposed to be knocking down the cave to block the entrance of the soldiers coming in. And for someone who's supposed to be punching down stuff, it's a very stiff pose. The soldiers aren't really reacting very much. One guy's looking up. The other guy isn't even looking. I would like to see them more frightened, maybe even running away now. That would be great. And then the other thing that I don't really like is there is a no real shadows, just a lot of random hatching. So what I mean is everybody casts shadows. If I'm sitting here and I put my hand over my other hand, I'm going to cast a shadow on my arm. It's hard to see on camera, but of course, and I have bright lighting to kind of eliminate shadows. That's the point of what we're doing here. But you have shadows, and rendering this line. What I'm talking about is this line, these tick lines and hatching marks. Those are supposed to be used to transfer or to go from a very light area to then a very dark area. But there's never any dark area. It's just this in between kind of essentially gray. And on top of it, they're in weird positions that don't make sense. These lines on the forearm would make a lot of sense if there was a super bright light from above, but there's no shadows that tell us there's a bright light from above. Like underneath this arm is a little itty bitty shadow. There's no shadow underneath the Hulk's neck, under his nose, really under the lip. It's very minimal. So that dark shading is very minimal, but it's super key in terms of developing a three-dimensional form. So this is an example, in my opinion, of Jack Kirby probably didn't put in a lot of shading. He probably just put in the form and said, had the Hulk like this. And so this guy fills it in. But if he doesn't understand lighting, or he's not confident enough to black out certain areas, and he's just working off what Jack Kirby gave him, then he knows there's supposed to be some sort of shadow here, but the best I can do is little tick marks. It just doesn't work. It leans for a very flat, very stiff kind of figure work and drawing. I'm not going to talk too much about the Hulk face. I'm just going to say the faces are bad. It's just the way that he's drawing them, and clearly, again, not getting a lot of direction in how the Hulk should look. So as of this moment, this is how he draws the Hulk. So we're going to kind of go over that. Last thing here, so he knocks down the cave wall, closes it up. He's like, I'm good. And then they start bombarding him, apparently with artillery. But I don't like it. The motion lines and then the sound effect isn't helping here. It's not whoosh, it's whoom. But because it starts that WHOO and the lines are more like motion lines, again, it just feels like maybe there's a lot of air blowing in, that it's wind and not an explosion blowing open the front of the cave. So it doesn't read as explosion to me. So again, kind of a bad pairing of the art isn't giving us that hint of an explosion, and neither is the sound effect in this case. Let's keep on rolling. So now they've gone past artillery. Now we're going to big missiles. And the missiles are going to really rock this cave and just damage it to the point where there's no sense in the Hulk being there anymore. He needs these machines to keep him stuck in his Hulk body as long as possible so that he doesn't transform and die. So it's getting smashed. Normally, when you have a Jack Kirby book, he is going to give you some really good rubble. This is something he's extremely good at, whether it's organic shapes of boulders, stones, or it's more man-made shapes. Like in this case, it's equipment and stuff. It's going to all be very interesting. This is just a mess of sort of squares and rectangles. There's not enough variation in the shape. It all comes down in one sort of pile on the Hulk's head. It's very unclear what's going on. It's just not good rubble. And I know it doesn't sound like much, but if I look and I feel like the Hulk just got hit with a lot of gray pizza boxes, I'm not feeling like, oh no, the place is falling down around his ears. So again, it could definitely be better there. Finally, the Hulk says fine. He agrees to go with the leader, and now the leader is going to teleport him away. I'll talk about the teleporter. So he explains how his teleporter works, that he transforms the Hulk into electronic signals piece by piece The waves go from that location to where he wants to be teleported to, and then this device reassembles the individual matter back into the Hulk instantaneously. If you are a sci-fi pop culture fan, this may sound familiar to you. This is very much how the transporters in Star Trek work, by taking a map of all the molecules, turning all of the mass into electricity or into energy, and then transforming it back into matter at a predetermined location. So I looked it up. This is, I would say, Stan probably took a page from Star Trek. The first transporter from Star Trek appeared 9 months before this comic came out. So clearly it was in the pop culture zeitgeist and makes sense. And it's a great, easy writing escape for how do I move things forward, or how do I move people from place to place. Hey, maybe this super scientist guy has a transporter, and I can even explain how it works because I've got an example to use already. Now, that said, this image of the Hulk in the first panel, again, is not good. This is a great example of what I said, all those strange rendering hatch marks that don't really mean much. I think what he's trying to do, like here on the chest, is show that there's be a shadow underneath the muscle. But it doesn't work because there's no dark shadow. So there's no transition from dark to light. It's just this weird line work. And it just ends up looking fuzzy. Same thing over here. Like if you're trying to indicate this is a dark area, there's no light hitting over here, then just add some black shadows and then render it to light. So you're making a transition. But it's not consistent. There's hatch lines on one side of the arm, so there's hatch lines over here. There's also hatch lines on the other side. So there's no rhyme or reason to it. Now, I am going to show you another image, and I'm going to use my tablet again. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll embed it here when I do the editing, but I happen to have it up on my tablet, so I can go ahead over here and just pull that up. So 1 second. If I can get my mouse to cooperate. Here we go. So this is what I said. In my notes, I wrote that this Hulk figure looks like the way a child would draw a superhero figure. From the way the head connects, the way the muscles are put together, the choices of where there's definitions between muscles, even how the foot goes. And I'm going to back this up. I'm about to show you my own piece of artwork. So I'm comparing not to anybody else, but to myself. And this is a piece of artwork that I drew when I was 13 years old. So this is my own superhero character from my self-published comic. And you can see, in my mind, a lot of similarities. So, yeah, you've got muscles that obviously I didn't really understand how they connected together. And that's maybe like the biggest thing, I think, of that Hulk drawing. But you can see as I zoom in, the pectorals, the chest muscles are just sort of big blocks. We see that with the Hulk. We'll cut back and see that. The neck just sort of connects. There's no tendons. There's no separate muscles. At this stage of the game, I know that there's a cut in your bicep between your bicep and your tricep, but I don't understand if it's on the inside or the outside. And so I'm just putting a line there because I know there's supposed to be something there. Same thing with the forearm. The legs are far too short because, again, proportions are bad. And I certainly don't understand the musculature of the thighs where it's put together with different muscles sort of grouped and overlapping each other. That piece I absolutely missed out on. And so in my personal opinion, I feel like this, which was, again, my own drawing at 13. So when I say child, I mean a child. I drew this. When you compare that to this Hulk form, I think you're going to see a lot of similarities there, right? So we've got the chest is just a couple of big blocks. We don't really understand how they connect into the shoulder a little bit here. It's not so bad. There is, as you can see again, we talked earlier, the lats, those side muscles come down, and there is literally no waist. Maybe the pants are really high. You could say he's got a set of, abdomen muscles there. It should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But now his waist is too high. So we've just taken a chunk about this big out of the Hulk's torso and just taken it away. The foot is way too small because now the artist has realized, I'm running out of room in my panel, so they just shrunk it up. And again, there's no real rhyme or reason to the rendering and the muscles. So, yeah. Again, the one I did, I was 13. I have an excuse. This went to print. So, yeah, something to think about there. The leader gives the Hulk the tour. He's like, here's my laboratory. Here's my humanoids that I use for all my labor. We've seen these guys a ton. And he explains how they're made. So this is the weirdest thing possible. They're supposed to be like synthetic plastic rubber robots of some kind. Yet now we find out he actually creates them out of, I'm assuming, artificial eggs, that like human-sized eggs that are feeding them with nutrients until they're ready to hatch. But they're artificial. They don't eat. They don't breathe. Why do they need nutrients? Like, I don't understand. Are they alive? Or are they not alive? So it's this weird mix of what are these things? So yeah. Then the leader, as he's explaining everything, is like, hey, guess what? You are going to be going to Night-Nightville very soon because I'm immune to it, but I've exposed you to sleeping gas, which would knock out a herd of elephants. Now, no problem with that as a concept. We know that the Hulk is very difficult to overcome physically, so gas makes sense. He still has to breathe. It would be a legitimate way to immobilize the Hulk. That said, from an artistic standpoint, don't have him laying on the bottom border panel. That does not work. You need to have some space there. Otherwise, he's literally just laying on the page, and we never want to do that. So this is, again, some of the problems I have with these page layouts is don't have so many small panels. From a story perspective, did I need to know the whole life cycle of the humanoids? Not so much. We could have gone from panel 1, hey, they protect me, these are my workers, to panel 4, and then the last panel. So you could have done this whole page and gotten across really a lot of the same info. This should not come back to be an issue. How they're created is irrelevant. I don't care about the eggs. It's so weird. So from a story perspective, I would cut all that out. You could do it in dialogue. The leader can say something about, I created a way to to incubate them artificially until they hatch, and then, hey, it's great, and now you're gonna be the leader of my warrior guard. And then nope, the Hulk goes to sleep. So then if you don't have these, you make all these panels bigger, and now you're not worried about, can I fit an unconscious Hulk and the leader in the same panel plus the dialogue, or am I going to run out of room? That's the point of all this. I will say this, I do like, and I don't, I like this being mirrored. The page composition from page 7 to page 8 here is a nice mirror. It's exactly the same format. So that gives us a feeling like this is happening at one moment and this is sort of happening at the exact same time. And so I do like that. This is actually some pretty good destruction and rubble over here. Broken equipment, very mix of shapes. That's one of the things. You have to essentially be intentionally random, which is a really hard thing to do, to have things not find a natural order, pattern, things of that nature. It's just how our brains work. We try to order and pattern everything around us. It's just how human brains process data in the world. So to take something and go, it needs to be 100% truly random, but I'm going to generate it from my own brain, is a hard thing to do. But it's pretty good. And then the last one here, down here, this little like aside, like, hey, as General Talbot is talking to Major Talbot is talking to General Ross. But this is just really stiff. Like, I just did it as a way to go, hey, and you can you have your hand up, but do that, as opposed to doing this. And then the hand isn't really bending around the face at all. It's like he just put it kind of flat like this over his face. It's a little weird. It just is a very stiff figure. He's also not even looking out the side of his eyes over towards the general. That's a little direction I would have gone with. I might have even turned his head a little bit and gone and had my hand this way. You could do it that way and it would still be clear what's happening. This is just a stiff, awkward figure. Rick Jones is in trouble. Of course, he's not going to rat out Bruce Banner. They know that he's involved somehow, and so now he's going to be taken into custody by the military. Cut back to the leader, and he's at this new base, which is near Rome. And actually, this is where I was like, man, this is phenomenal. This background with the big statue, the architecture of the buildings, like, that's actually a really nice, the fountain down here, for a small little background, that's a really, really nice detailed background there. I think it's excellent. The profile shot of the Hulk is probably the best Hulk face we've seen in the whole issue. The proportions of the face are much better. Even all the extra lines and rendering kind of work because of just the way his face is structured. So actually, this is probably one of the better drawings of the entire issue, to be perfectly frank. And then we cut down here, and again, useless, weird rendering. What are these lines on his chest? Are they supposed to be hair? Or is it supposed to reference a shadow? If it doesn't mean something, if you don't go, those lines are X, like those lines are shadows, those lines are hair, those lines are scratch marks, those lines are part of a costume, then don't draw them. If they don't mean anything, if they don't represent something, don't draw them. They just confuse the situation. Let's see. So then we go here. This actually, I think, it's not as good as that profile drawing, but this is pretty good. The nose should be definitely shorter, but this pose, the expression is good. He's starting to change back to Banner, and he's trying to fight it, and that's really nice. It's a little cartoony, and what I mean by that is just, again, this is one of those things where the line work, the very rubbery expression, something about the hand and just the simplicity of the fingers really, again, strikes me as what I would call cartoony. But I think it works. And on top of it, for the most part, you've got this framing device, again, of this sort of wreckage and stuff that is in front of the Hulk. I don't know that I like where it transitions to be going behind him and plugging into the wall here, only because it's obviously a very different color and it doesn't follow in perspective with these items that are over here on this wall. So, but this part over here on the right hand side that's framing is very good. From a story perspective, the only question I have is, why is everything all broken? I don't get it, right? Because he gets up, he wakes up, he rolls off this cot, bed, table, exam table, whatever you want to call it, and there's stuff already broken before the Hulk ever lashes out and starts breaking stuff. So why is this stuff already broken? I don't understand. So that's maybe a little confusion there. We've got some, again, bad rendering in these panels here. What are these hatch marks? What is going on? It just looks, now, instead of his back looking like there's muscles, it just looks like it's he's got back fat. The Hulk has a fat back, and the rolls of fat are there on his, going down his back. Drop some shadows. Heck, at this point, I would take a silhouetted Hulk smashing stuff and it lighting up as he smashes it over whatever this line work is. This is crazy. You've got super thick line here, but you also have super thick line on the top of the shoulder, and then over here, like, I mean, if you break this down again, again, this is where, as I mentioned before, you draw. Not only do you draw through things, you draw things off panel if they're supposed to go off panel to make sure you're getting everything correct. Draw your figures without clothes on first. Don't draw them with clothes so that you make sure you get the anatomy right. If you broke this down right here, the Hulk's rear end is as big as his entire torso. Like, from waist to shoulders, he's all butt. So that's where you would draw. Don't just draw the pants. Draw where the leg connects. You just do it in sort of bubble shapes. You're sort of drawing this almost marionette that you can move, and then you flesh it out as you need to. You put the clothes over the top of it, and you're guaranteed everything works correctly. So, whew, yeah. The Hulk then sets off an alarm, and the leader's like, all right, I've got things in place. So whatever's supposed to be statues are obviously not statues. Why go through the effort of disguising his humanoids as these weird lizardy statues? Just make the leader push a button and doors open and humanoids come out. I don't understand the posing as statue things. Weird. That being said, this last panel at the bottom, when you have a panel that is this big, so when you have panels like here, the leader, any of these smaller panels for the most part, you've got some background. That's great. When you have a panel this wide, this needs some background. Even if it's just like draw the line where the edge of the wall meets the floor. Give us some sense of the space. Is the floor tile? Is it solid? Is it concrete? Is it whatever? You can kind of start to do, some details with that flooring that just helps us feel like they're not floating in orange space. When the area above your head is the same color as the area below your feet, you're floating. So to ground them, real easy. You just put in a couple of lines that indicate like that's the edge of the floor. You do it in perspective so that it works. Come on. And they're established in a space. Real easy. The Hulk is going to keep fighting. And again, more random hatching lines that mean nothing. This is not where I would put that shoulder shadow. Unless you're going to shadow out the entire back of the Hulk, that's not where that shadow would go. But if you want to say that there's a strong light coming behind this, then shadow the whole front side of the humanoid in disguise. And then shadow the back of the Hulk. That's fine. Or don't. But this halfway doesn't do anything for anybody. And now the humanoids also have weapons. So that's great. This panel down here, the next to last one, isn't bad. The face is pretty good. And again, one of my big constraints or complaints that I have about the Hulk face, shorten that nose up. It should be more monstrous. The shorter the nose and the longer the distance from the bottom of the nose to that upper lip just really helps emphasize that. The pose is pretty good of him trying to push up off of one hand and an elbow. So that part's not too bad. This halfway decent drawing there. We even have a nice cast shadow below him. That's fine. I'm good with that. The next one's not good. That all said, my big note here is these 3 panels could be one panel. And that's important. If you are writing from a script, and unless your writer, so if you're the artist and somebody else is writing and they give you a script that says panel 1, panel 2, if they break out exactly how many panels they want, and it's their thing, your work for hire or whatever, you may want to do 3 panels of the Hulk getting knocked down, trying to get up, and going, oh, I can't do it. I'm going to die. In my opinion, as an artist, I would much prefer to work from a description of the page, meaning, and then let me decide how many panels I want to tell this in. So the Hulk tries to tackle one of the humanoids, or the Hulk, let's see, how would I describe this as a writer? The Hulk attacks the humanoids, flinging one into the other before he turns and gets blasted by their weapon, their electric weapon. He tries to rise off the ground and realizes it's too late. This is how I would describe it. So then I might do this whole page. If I was going to draw this, I'll stay with 2 panels, him grabbing onto, tackling the one, throwing it into the other. I might make this one panel of the Hulk getting, and I would do it where the humanoid is behind him, zaps him from behind, and he's like, oh, those clubs are weapons, oh no, da-da-da. And then I would have one panel at the bottom. And so I'm giving myself a lot more space to do more stuff with the art to make it more interesting. I'd be able to put backgrounds behind these panels up here, so we'd see the humanoid pointing his club at the Hulk from behind, zapping him with the electricity. Hulk goes down. I like this. He's trying to rise up. Maybe even do 2, because I'm already condensing 2 panels. I could condense this from 3 to 2, maybe, if I want, and maybe do an end on a close up. That's okay. But that's, if you can do something, if you could take, instead of doing something in 3 panels, you can do it in 1 panel, do it. Real estate in a comic is precious. You don't have all the space in the world. You have 10.5 or 10.25 inches by 15 inches to work on. That's it. And half of it is going to be filled up with dialogue and sound effects and all this kind of stuff. So you've got to be efficient with your storytelling. And this is just not efficient storytelling. So that is the book. Woo! We're going to cut back over to the desk and we're going to wrap this one up. So there is Tales to Astonish 72. Yeah, it's, again, another rough one. So what I do know is that it has to do with the deadlines. So when you have somebody like a Jack Kirby, yes, he could work very fast, multiple pages per day. That's what we know. Of penciling, he always had somebody else ink, and so he was able to draw his pages very quickly and get them out. Again, multiples per day. So you've got then multiple inkers working on multiple books, and this is how you sort of assembly line work a lot in a short period of time. But deadlines catch up to everybody, and eventually even somebody like Jack Kirby is like, hey, I've hit my threshold. This is as much as I can draw at one given time. You want me on this? Well, I can't. Something's got to give. And in this case, it was the Hulk. It makes sense. It's a half of a 2-part. So if it's not, top rated art, you still, readers go, we're still giving him the Submariner story in the beginning, right? So that's where Jack's kind of like, he's giving the inker the instructions. Hopefully they follow it to the best of their ability. It just maybe Mike Esposito as a actual finisher, that was not his strength. Maybe he was a little overwhelmed by the task. Maybe he had a hard time trying to interpret what Jack was trying to do in his layouts. Who knows, right? But that's how this all came about. Now, the good news is it's not going to last forever. We're going to move through this. We're going to start to see more artists, different artists brought in, over more, still Jack Kirby layouts, but we're going to start to see how other people interpret them. So that'll be good. In terms of a rating, I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10. There's just not much happening in the story. Leader teleports the Hulk away from the army. The Hulk starts to change. Takes a second to break the lab, fight for half a minute with some disguised humanoids, robot guys, and then he's overwhelmed. So we're going to have to see what happens next. But there's not a lot happening here. So story-wise, I can't give it a high rating. Artwork-wise, I definitely can't give it a high rating. But it's important we don't get to where we want to be, which is awesome story, awesome art sometimes, without getting through some not awesome stuff. I think I said it in my last video. You can't have a sunny day. You can't appreciate a sunny day if you never have any rain. And so that's where we're at today. In the meantime, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I do check out all the comments. I really want to hear what you think. Did you read this? Are you familiar with this story? Did you even know that this existed? Are you familiar with the artist, obviously Jack Kirby, but, are there other Mick Esposito works that you're familiar with that maybe I haven't seen yet? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And of course, as always, join me here next week for even more Incredible Hulk. Thanks.